the Quinn Marr Show.
This show is brought to you by Bing Pot Trivia. How many times have you been to a trivia night where it just felt like somebody reading questions? Well, Bing Pot Trivia prides themselves on bringing high-energy, dynamic hosts to every event. The show leans heavily on visual elements. Their questions are designed to make you laugh or roll your eyes, while also challenging your knowledge on pop culture, high school science, culinary arts, and everything in between. Their typical show runs 5 rounds, including a photo round, general knowledge on pop culture, riffs on different game shows, absurd 50-50 questions, and a super sweet music round. Check out bingpottrivia.com today to book your trivia night. Again, that is at bingpottrivia.com. Tell my boy Danny that your friend Quinn sent you. All right, let's get on with the show. My next guest has been in the biz for almost 40 years. I like to say I'm the biggest fan of Christmas, but I think he might have me beat. He's worked with monkeys, hockey players, elves, and more. It is my pleasure to welcome to the Quinn Marr Show, John B. Lowe. John, what is going on?
Well, I'm here talking to you right now.
I really appreciate it. How's your day been? What have you been up to today?
Today, I was putting the finishing touches on some raised garden beds out in my backyard.
Oh, okay. You
live
it up out there.
It's hot. It's hot out there. Yeah.
Oh, yeah? Okay. Actually, I am, like I just told you, I live near Toronto, and not today, but the last few days, it's been insane. And then we got that rain. I don't know if you saw on the news where
has it been rainy and muggy? Yeah, that's what I remember about Toronto. I've never liked the summer when I was a kid there.
Yeah,
my favorite season was fall because the humidity was going away.
100%. Today was actually kind of like a fall type day. Actually, that's why you said that. So actually, speaking of Toronto, that's where I want to start. So, you grew up in Toronto, and I just want to kind of get like a take on like what a young John was like. Was he into reading, sports, movies? Like, give me all the details.
Wow, I don't. It was so long ago, I barely remember. I was. Let me see. As a kid, I was really. You said reading. I was a voracious reader as a kid. I wouldn't put a book down. I think I spent a lot of time living in my head, being stimulated by storytellers. I love words. I love reading. I love stories.
Was there like a specific author or anything as a kid, or just like in general? Was it like fantasy? Like, was it kind of like Harry Potter-ish?
It was pretty eclectic. I mean, if you're talking about as a child, I think the thing with me is I started reading really early. And I have an older sister, but a year and a half older than me. And I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but I was always reading kind of above my age, I think, so, and I think they say that when you're writing to an audience, they say, if you're writing to a kid's audience, if you're writing for 10-year-olds, you're writing about 12-year-olds, that I think kids, and I think that was like, so by the time I was in, junior high and high school, I was reading. Every time I got a book in high school, I'd already read it 5 years before. Right?
Oh, okay.
But my parents were big readers, and I think my mother worked in the library at the high school, and books were always on. There's always a pile of books, so it was quite eclectic. I did get into sci-fi fantasy when I was in my early teens, for sure.
Nice.
And I also liked reading classics. And one of my favorite writers when I was a kid was Dickens.
Okay.
Yeah, which is kind of strange, but I think I really related to David Copperfield and Pip and Great Expectations, those young men sort of seeking their fortune kind of thing.
Right. No, absolutely. I actually wanted to ask about your parents. So you said your mom worked in the library, and then what did your dad do for work?
Well, my parents were both gone now, but they were both. I'm first generation Canadian. They were both. My mother's from Scotland, and my father was from England, and both from a working class background. So my father's whole family was in the mines in the Midlands in England, coal miners. And my dad got out in the 50s. He was the older. They had a lot of siblings. So he immigrated to Canada in the mid 50s, I think. And my mother, around the same time, they met in Toronto, even though they're from elsewhere. My mother came over with a sister, and so I grew up with aunts and uncles, a lot of Scots around, and very few England. And my father ended up, he came out as a laborer and ended up working at Air Canada as a load agent. They used to do the weights and balances. They were sort of they told everybody where to put the how much fuel to put in the plane.
Oh, that's right. That's an important job.
Yeah, and so that was kind of cool, So I have a lot of respect and admiration for my parents, because I was able to go back to where they came from, and lovely people, that kind of stuff. But you really realize how many more opportunities I had growing up in the suburbs of Toronto.
It's crazy.
Than they ever had. And the fact that I could actually make a living as an actor doing something I love, I was able to articulate to both my parents, long before they passed, how much I feel blessed that I was able to, live in a place where I was able to make a living doing something I loved.
That's awesome. So when you went there, did you meet like relatives and stuff that still lived there then?
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
It was great because my dad worked the airlines, we were able to get passes.
Oh, nice.
So we've been standby. So I don't know if it was every summer, but many summers we would go over and visit family. So we'd be traveling to England and Scotland, and everybody, it sounds fancy, but really, we were staying with relatives in council houses and visiting family, and really getting a taste of the lifestyle I would have lived had I grown up there. And most of my cousins ended up going, having great jobs and going to school, stuff like that. So it wasn't too bad, but it was definitely we had a lot more opportunity coming over here. So it was great. So I was able to visit England and Scotland quite often as a kid.
That's really cool. And honestly, I think that would be the better way to do it, is to kind of stay with people who are from there. They can kind of show you like the hole in the walls or like the good places and everything. To me, that seems like it would have been better.
Yeah, I think so. I think, looking back, right? I mean, we certainly went to London and we saw some castles and stuff like that. But, when I went back after my mother passed away, I went back with my father to Scotland because I think it was partly because in his heart, he knew it might be his last opportunity to travel, but he wanted to spread my mother's ashes she's from a seaside town called Nairn. Which is it's just north of Inverness, off the Moray Firth. But anyway, it backs on the North Sea, and so he wanted to, put her ashes out into the beach where she grew up, so it was great going back as a middle-aged man and sort of remembering the beach that we'd visit as a child and seeing the tiny, tiny little house that she and 8 siblings grew up in, and really get a sense of where you're coming from. But I think. Meeting people going to England not as a tourist makes you really appreciate a place. And I think I've always said that if you travel, it'd be wonderful to be able to not stay in a hotel and look at touristing, but just hang out and meet people.
Exactly. Those are 2 places actually my fiance and I, we always talk about going. Like, her and I were talking about maybe for a honeymoon, but we decided on a cruise instead. But like, if for someone like me and her, like if we ever wanted to go to England and Scotland, what are some tips you would have?
Well, I got to tell you, I fell in love. I re-fell in love with Scotland in that trip I just mentioned with my father. Nice. And I don't know how much of it was, but we flew into Glasgow, rented a car, and so we drove from Glasgow up to Inverness, and then to Banff. Stayed in Banff for a few days, and and sent my mother off to the ocean. And
that's awesome.
And then I drove with my father across the top down to Aberdeen and then back into Edinburgh, which is only an hour or 2 from Glasgow. And the countryside, and it was October, I think it was. But it wasn't. It was fall weather.
Yeah,
It wasn't thing. But that North Sea, when you get out to Aberdeen, that North Sea coming to the coast with that wind was really quite spectacular. But
that seems like the best time to go would be like a September, October.
Yeah, it's beautiful country, and Northumberland, Northern England. We that trip we didn't get down to London, so my father's from Nottinghamshire, Robin Hood country. So we got into there, and so I think in the north of England and Scotland, it's just geographically, it's just, and it's so filled with history, of course.
Yeah.
And Ireland is beautiful as well, if you get a chance to go there. So if you're going to go, I think it's, I think, Scotland is a trip. Scotland and Ireland is a trip. And then England, as small as it is physically compared to Canada, you know, the north of England is different than the south of England, right?
You're making me jealous. I want to go there right now.
Well, go now. So, did you get married or
no? Not yet. Next October.
Well, screw the cruise. You're gonna see you're stuck on a boat. What are you gonna do?
That's true. That's a good point. I might have to rethink it. We haven't paid for it yet. Going back then, like you're just talking about how your dad worked for the airline, your mom was a librarian. Where the hell did the interest in like theater or acting come from? Like, you said you had a sister. Do you have any other siblings, by the way?
I just have an older sister, Winifred, who's a year and a half older than me. She's in Newmarket.
Okay, so was she into acting? Like, where did this come from? The entertainment side of you?
I don't remember. I remember. I can't believe I'm telling this story. I remember the first time acting occurred to me. Well, actually, I have two stories from childhood that I may start weeping in the middle of.
Hey, no, it's okay.
One was in grade 6. Our class was doing some kind of play, I guess, for the vice. I don't really remember the setup, but we were creating a historical play about who were the explorers? Lewis
and Clark.
Lewis and Clark, yeah. And anyway, our audition was standing up and saying something to the effect, reading, the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog, or something like that. And I didn't get cast. I ended up doing costumes or something. So I think that broke. I think that I'm a stubborn fella, so I think that set me on the path of going, screw you, Mr. Gibson, or whoever that was. I'm going to do this for a living. And then in grade 8, which was 2 years later, and this is a really good time to talk about this because of a thing, but I was waiting for a guy named, and I'll use his real name, I haven't seen him since grade 8, a guy named Eddie Sharkey, who lived near me, and we used to walk home together for half a year. You make friends quickly and when you're a kid, and then lose them quickly. Eddie Sharkey and I were walking home together every day, and so I was hanging out waiting for Eddie at his locker, and he said, "Oh, hang on, John, I'm going to go audition for the play." And so I went to the room to wait for him, having given up on any aspirations as an actor because of my huge failure. Fair. And but there was a shortage of men, as there always was, and so I got to audition, and I got a supporting lead. I played, and this was the early 70s, and the times they haven't changed. But my very first speaking role on stage was as a poor but honest Chinese fisherman in a one-act play called The Stolen Prince.
Okay.
And and we learned how to. It was wonderful and a horrible experience.
Yeah. Too bad there weren't like people taking videos the way they do now. Because imagine that coming up now.
Oh dear, yes. My name is Limo. I am a poor but honest fisherman. So
that's so funny. So the fact is, then, would you agree that if this was in gym class and you didn't get picked for like the soccer team, you might have been David Beckham?
No, my legs are too short.
Damn it. Okay, there goes that theory.
Yeah.
So then after that, then did you just kind of keep doing more theater like in school? Did you ever do it outside of school? Like what kind of went on from there?
I think I mean, it gets a little boring after this. I think I got that got me interested. And then in high school, I took theater arts and made a bunch of really close friends, and this was the 70s. So the drama kids weren't cool like they are on Glee,
or High School Musical.
Yeah, we were really kind of outsiders, and I think that's what kind of bonded us, So I think I took theater arts in high school, and I did plays. I did Lil Abner, the musical, which you wouldn't remember, but and the star of that was Todd Thicke, who played Lil Abner, and his brother is Alan Thicke, the famous Canadian.
Oh, no way!
Yeah, so there's a childhood memory for you.
Oh, that's cool.
Him as a dad. So I never met Alan, but I met Todd. Todd, I think, ended up going to LA as well and writing for that video show, the home video show. He was
America's Funniest Home Videos.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I didn't really know him. I was in grade 9. He was in grade 13, right? So
still, though, that's cool.
Yeah, that was the kind of thing. And then, and I did a bunch of plays in high school, and it definitely became a passion for sure. By the time I left high school, I was definitely passionate about it. And,
now, I know you are an instructor in the school in Winnipeg, but again, I said this to you before we started recording that, like, so for some reason, the small details about you are hard to find. So did you go to school, like after high school, did you go to school for art?
I did, but I had a strange kind of, I think it was a long time ago, so none of this really matters anymore.
It all matters. That's why I have you on.
Well, but I mean, again, this is a deep dive. So I went to, I decided that acting was too unstable. So I studied radio. I studied radio broadcasting.
Hey, that's what I went to school for.
At Humber College. Did you go to Humber?
I did not. I went to Durham College.
Oh, okay. Ryerson was the other place at the time. But Ryerson
that's a massive place for arts.
Humber or Ryerson?
Ryerson.
Humber. Yeah. Well, Humber had a really good radio broadcasting program. Actually, most of my classmates, I left after a year. Most of my classmates well, some of them retired, some of them died, but most of them ended up working in radio. It was one of those really good programs where most of the instructors were working in the business.
That changes it. My radio professor was the same. He's on 94.9 The Rock in Oshawa, Ontario.
Oh yeah, what was his name?
Mike Luck.
Okay, I just thought, wouldn't it be great if it was somebody I went to school with?
Well, that would have been cool.
Yeah, that name does ring a bell, though.
Lucky and Craig Venn and Lucky is what their show is called. I'm
okay.
sure you might have heard it at some point. So then how long were you at Humber for then?
Well, I just did a year there, and then I went. Then I bought a van and decided to live in it for a year, and I went out west, and I ended up going to Studio 58 in Vancouver.
That's cool.
Which is an acting school, community college, and then I ended up just working. We moved. I got married. I met my wife in Banff. Went to the Banff Center for Theater Arts when they had a really good program there. Met my wife in Banff, and then we ended up in Vancouver, living in Vancouver for a while, and then we decided to go to school together. And then we were looking. She's a special education teacher.
Yep.
Wonderful. She actually, makes an impact on the world. Unlike my profession.
Hey, that's why I have you on. You made an impact on me, and we'll talk about it later.
Okay. All right. But at anyway. But yeah. So we met, and then I think we ended up University of Alberta. We were going to both go to. I was at Studio 58, and she was going to go to UBC for the special education program. And that year they cut the program. They were just making these huge sweeping cuts to the special education program. And she was already working with special needs youth and stuff. She was just trying to get a degree in it. We were in our mid-20s by then. And so we decided to go to University of Alberta, which has a wonderful, I think, the best theater program in the country.
Nice.
At University of Alberta. And I didn't go. I got there and I just started working as an actor. And she ended up getting her education degree there. And then we've moved from there back to BC. And then from there we moved here over a period of about 20 years, 25
Nice.
years.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. So a lot of moving around.
Yeah. I think in a really kind of exciting way. I think that.
Oh, absolutely.
Living in a van for a year and then, just sort of, this is, it's been nice to live here. Let's try something new. I think it was.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Good. There's not many people that can say I lived in a van for a year. So.
Well, yeah, that's my.
It came out the right side of it too. Could have gone a lot worse.
Well, that's it. That's my. I did end up in a van.
Right. Exactly.
I may still. So.
Absolutely. So, doing my research, which I can't say I'm the best at doing.
I got to tell you, it's a little weird to have somebody research me. I get. Yeah, well, I'm a Canadian actor. So.
Hey! You've been in a lot of things that I've watched, so don't sell yourself short. So
I'm not selling myself short, but the research thing is a little unnerving.
So your first credited role is you played a police officer in Just My Luck. Can we talk about this?
I have zero memory of that.
You have no idea what that is?
I think it was a favor I did a friend.
Really? Let me see if I can find a description of it.
I saw that credit, and I have a vague memory of it. I've never seen it.
Really?
And I have a vague memory of it, and I think it was I was living in Edmonton at the time, and I think somebody I was working with in a theater, I was probably doing box office or something in a theater, and we were all making Edmonton at the time was, I think, the hottest theater community in the country in the 1980s.
Okay.
You're from Ontario, so you guys don't understand how exciting the rest of the world can be. But there was at that time, I think in the 80s, there were 14 operating professional theater companies in Edmonton, with a population of less than 1 million people. It was a really, really creative place to be. So I think I was doing a play or something, and somebody was casting this low budget movie, or that a friend of theirs was making, and so I played a cop. I think I played the my friend's buddy. I think I had 1 or 2 lines in the cop shop or something.
I just went to go look at what the description. There was not even one on there.
Oh, it wouldn't surprise me. I don't think I've ever seen it. I'm surprised it was even done.
Oh, really?
I did see the credit come up and go, what was that again? Right.
Yeah. But 1987, it said, was your first credited role.
Yeah. So I would have just joined the union then. Right. So,
that's weird. Yeah. Hey, too bad you're not still getting checks for it. It wasn't one of those projects.
It wasn't a big hit. It wasn't a sleeper hit.
Yeah, exactly. And just kind of going through like your filmography, like you got X-Files, you got Golf Punks with Tom Arnold, the New Addams Family. So X-Files at the time, like with the episode, I know you're in an episode, you played a reverend. Was it like massive when you like played it in that episode?
I think X-Files, I think I was a scientist in X-Files. I think the Millennium was the one that was a fairly early credit. I actually had a good sized supporting role in that, which was nice. It was a nice surprise for me. I think in Vancouver, by the time I got there, I think X-Files had been there for 3 or 4 years.
Oh wow!
So everybody got their day on X-Files. Like it was great that way. I mean, Vancouver was, well, it still is. I mean, it was really exciting then though, because the 90s in Vancouver was a real major shift in a lot of things for BC performers, for sure. Because there was all this LA production. I would say, if you're watching a series in an American TV series in the 90s, odds are pretty good it was shot in Vancouver.
It's just cheaper there, correct?
Well, it had a lot of advantages over. It was on the same thing about Vancouver. It's on the same time zone as LA, and It's just like flights are like 2 hours, and it's just straight hop, right?
Right.
And there was a lot of flights back and forth. So, and then on top of that, our unions, and it's not so much the actors union, but the IATSE and the DGC, our technical unions have different deals. And so in a sense we were cheaper than the Hollywood people.
Right.
And this was at a time before all these tax credits were going on, but there were some tax credits in BC. Right. So that was new. So if you spend money in BC, you got money back. And then the Canadian dollar was sitting at about kind of around where it is now. So, it was, you got more for less money. And because of some TV shows that were made in the 80s and early 90s, there were some really good crews there, but it wasn't hard to ship people up from LA. So a lot of the keys were coming up from LA, but it was an easy kind of pop them up. So, and there was a large enough pool of actors that they were able to cast the shows. So
as like Vancouver as a place getting bigger to like film and stuff, and I know you lived there, but then you moved. Did you ever think about moving back just because? It was
I never planned on. I've always, you're talking back the stories about when I was a kid. I fell in love with BC. I think that was why I bought the van. I fell in love with BC as a 12-year-old, I think, 14-year-old. I can't remember. I just remember falling in love with Vancouver and Victoria, and I was at that age where I would go on a trip with my parents, but I was able to, go off on my own, go to the museum or whatever, and I fell in love with the oceans and the boats and the fish on the dock in Victoria, and just the scenery, the mountains, and all of that beautiful thing. So I think I always wanted to go to Vancouver. Vancouver to me is the most beautiful city in this country.
Oh yeah, it's just stupid expensive.
Yeah, but so is Toronto, right?
I mean, at this point, everywhere is.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what makes it difficult. When I moved to Winnipeg, which is where I am now, I made a lot of, this is maybe the theme of my, if I was to ever write a biography or something about being an actor, I think the theme of my story is I have made a whole bunch of really bad professional decisions that I would make over again because they were for personal reasons. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And so we moved here because in the early 2000s, around 2005, 2004, after 2001, there was a real slump in the film and TV industry.
Oh, really?
Across LA and all across.
Why was that? I was young, so.
Yeah, well, it was partly because of a bunch of stuff that happened in 2001. And everybody thinks it has to do with 9/11, which it certainly was impacted by. But the dollar went up, and then there was these two major. You've just heard about all this stuff with the SAG-AFTRA and the writers' strikes in the States. The same kind of thing was happening back then.
Oh.
So what happened was the last time, I'm oversimplifying, and somebody who knows the business better would probably get into more detail. But what had happened was the last time there was a big writer's strike, a lot of production shut down. So because all the contracts were becoming due, and they knew there were some issues coming up because the internet was kind of a new thing, and so all of the contracts would refer to film and television. They never referred to other media, right? And so there was already an issue with videos and DVDs, right? And so that was the issues that were, and the internet. So those were the issues that were coming up. So there was an anticipation that these negotiations would last a long time. So they front loaded a lot of production in the year 2000, which is why I think you and I are talking together. And year 2001, I think I worked more than I ever had because they were shooting ahead. They were trying to get a bunch of stuff in the can before the because
they knew it was coming.
Yeah, before the strikes.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And so then the strikes kind of they didn't really happen.
Right.
And so they didn't need they didn't really need a lot of shoot of stuff. They didn't need to shoot a lot of stuff because I'm oversimplifying here.
Well, but they stocked up on a bunch of stuff, which is kind of good, especially for someone like you. You had like job after job after job.
Yeah, if you look at if you look at the dates, that was a pretty busy couple of years.
Yeah,
but for a lot of us, and then the industry never really kind of boomed after that. And I actually didn't live in Vancouver. I shared an apartment in Vancouver. My wife and kids, we lived in Kelowna. We had an interior.
Yeah.
So, and my kids were small, right? And so whenever I was in Vancouver, it was only for a few days at a time. I was doing film and TV, but at the time I wasn't booking as often or as big as I had been.
Yeah.
And so I started doing theater again, and theater takes you out of town for 6 weeks, 8 weeks. You're gone, right? Because you're performing every day and every night. And that became, for me, as much as I love theater and I love doing it, you're working 2 or 3 hours a day, but the rest of the time you're, hundreds and thousands of miles away from your family. And I'm basically killing time to work. And I found that very difficult. And then I'd go back and I'd miss my kids' events and stuff like that. And I was teaching on and off for years.
Wow.
And so I had the opportunity to take over get a full-time teaching gig with a theater school attached to professional theater here in Winnipeg. Your question was about Vancouver, but
hey, that's why I have you on here, for you to talk.
But the opportunity was an opportunity to live in the same house as my wife and kids, right? So we came out and checked out Winnipeg, and Winnipeg is a nicer city than I defend Winnipeg to Winnipeggers all the time. But Winnipeg just seemed like a really great place to bring my family. My wife found a great job here, so we moved out here, and I lived in the same house as my kids while they went to school. Turns out I was able to do, so I was working in the theater, I was teaching, I was administrating a theater school, but I was also able to do some film and TV while I was here. I did a play every year, kept my hand in, and I think we were going to head back to Vancouver in 2016. That didn't happen. Then we were out there in 2019. I actually had made arrangements on April 18th of 2020 to move there and take permanent residence so I could be a BC-based actor.
I can see why that didn't happen that day.
And so March rolled around and travel was kind of restricted. So still here.
Right. Oh, jeez.
I'm not complaining, but I think we're here for a while now.
Okay, well, there you go. You're a true Winnipegger now. This is kind of not off topic, but just kind of a funny one. Like someone that I kind of find it just like and it seemed like an interesting guy / actor and like comedian is Tom Arnold. So what was filming Golf Punks like? You were, I think, like the official at the golf course or something.
Oh well, I tell you, I had a really small role in that. A lot of those roles on there were the one dayers. That was a one dayer. I didn't get it. I mean, Tom Arnold was Tom Arnold. I mean, I didn't really get to see him. I have a story about that. Again, I have to drag it out of the back of my memory, but I had an actor's nightmare from hell that time. So I was shooting a show which I love doing for CBC called Nothing Too Good for a Cowboy. And I had this wonderful recurring character that the writers, it was like a gift that the writers gave me. Golf Punks, I auditioned for, a referee or what do you call it? Official, an official. And there was an official number 1 and official number 2. And I auditioned for official number 1, which was, I think I registered them. I had like 4 lines, and it was an actor role.
Okay.
But I was doing this series. So I was staying in a hotel in Mission or Maple Ridge, and it worked out nicely because I was shooting the series, and I worked Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then my day on Golf Punks with my one line was on Friday. And so perfect. So I thought I'll just chill out at the hotel because somebody else is paying for the hotel. I'll just chill out in the hotel for the day and have a nice day off, and I'll read the script and relearn my line. I'd auditioned with it, so I already knew it. Right? So the phone rings about 8:30 on Thursday morning, waking me up before I could have my lazy breakfast. And it was the second AD saying, "John, I'm really sorry, but your agent gave me anyway, but we screwed up the schedule. You're on today, not tomorrow. How quickly can you be here?" And I wasn't that far, because they were shooting out in Abbotsford. And I said, "Well, can you give me an hour?" And they said, "Okay, that would be great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much." And whatever. So I already know my line. And so I grabbed a coffee, and then I flipped to the script. I thought, well, I better learn the line while I'm in the shower.
Yeah.
I opened up the script, and I realized I wasn't official number 1 or number 2. I was official number 1. And official number 1 had, and I'm sure it's not in the movie, official number 1 had a 1-page monologue explaining the rules of the tournament. Like, it's a nothing role, but it was like it was a
complicated one to learn in an hour.
Yeah. And so I'm driving to set trying to learn this thing, and I got there, but it's okay. When you get to set, there's always, you go in your trailer, you put on your costume, they take in a hair and makeup. I figured I had another hour to learn it.
Right.
I get to set. When I pull into the parking lot, there was a golf cart waiting to meet me with a wardrobe person and a hair person and a makeup person in the golf cart. Do you mind changing on set? They drove me to the golf clubhouse. They put me in my costume and took me right to set. Oh my fucking God. So this is bad enough, right? So, yeah. But now the set is me on a hill in front of all the kids and Tom Arnold, and, the big star, and all the other actors and 100 extras announcing and explaining the rules. And
then they're probably like, "Holy shit, about time!"
But I pulled it off the first. Yeah. I think I got one good take, and then I flubbed the rest of them.
Oh God, that's all you need.
I'm sure.
I gotta watch that movie.
I don't go to bed without reading the script now.
It seems like an interesting movie. I gotta watch it.
I doubt it. I
don't know. Now. Sorry, go ahead.
So you would have been the right age for that, though. So yeah, you would have.
I'm 28.
Yeah, so yeah, you would have been, because that would have been 19. That would have been around the same time as that Santa Claus movie. So early 2000s.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So you would have been,
Another movie that I'd watched back in the day, and I haven't seen in forever, and I would have to rewatch it to see you in it, is Most Valuable Primate. And for people who don't know, it's a monkey that plays hockey, and you played conductor, I think it's called. Yeah,
Blinker, you missed me.
Yeah. So
the gag.
Did you hear any scenes with the monkey or anything?
Yeah, I had one scene with the monkey. The gag was the monkey was hiding. I was a train conductor, and the monkey was hiding in a suitcase on the rack.
Gotcha.
And a suitcase. Sorry, my eye line is all weird because you're over there. And
it's all right.
The monkey was hiding on a rack, and he stole my hat.
Okay. Had you ever worked with any animals before?
And then, no, that was the first. And that was kind of weird because I had just done a movie with a little girl, a little kid. No, sorry. I just did the monkey movie. And what was really interesting in the monkeys was it was kind of a little disconcerting. It wasn't a monkey, by the way. It was a chimpanzee,
right?
Which is an ape, apparently. I don't know.
Correct. You're right. You're right.
You would have been corrected. But the trainer, they were dressed as in clothes. So it was like these weird, hairy little kids.
Oh,
so it was kind of creepy, right?
That's really weird. Yeah, true. Yeah.
And then they had a bunch of them that learned different tricks. Right?
Oh, there was more than one?
Yeah. Because I think chimpanzees are pretty intelligent, so they can do a lot. But it's the same with dog movies, I guess. They'll get a bunch of lookalike dogs. And like if a dog has a really particular high, detailed skill, they'll train a dog to do one thing, and they'll train another dog to do another thing. Right?
That's so weird.
So the dog doesn't have to do all the bits, right?
Fair, okay. That's like twins. Yeah. When twins play with the same character.
Yeah, it's the same kind of idea. But what was weird was they would give the monkey a treat after they completed their task, right? And then I was on a movie in the same month, and there was a little girl there, and the mother treated her daughter exactly the same
like way the monkey
as the trainer treated the monkey, and I thought, oh dear.
That's awful. Jesus. Some parents I'm sure are brutal. I would not be surprised.
Well, the mother was very excited to be on set. So.
Yeah, okay. Now like we mentioned before, so me growing up in the mid 90s, born in 96, I was I still am, biggest Disney Channel fan in the world. Like
I watched everything you watched because my kids are 28 and 32.
Oh, okay, there we go. So this is a funny thing. So me and my fiance were the same age. So when Disney Plus came out in 2019, I think it was the greatest day in the world. The fact that I could watch all the shows that we used to watch, because it was such a pain in the ass to try to watch before. The fact that we have it every night, we'll watch like either Sweet Life of Zach Cody, Hannah Montana, Wizard, like still now. It makes us sound so weird, but like the nostalgia factor and like. I always tell people that the reason I do this podcast is that there's nobody I know that misses being a kid more than me.
Oh, that's nice.
At all. So the fact that I get to talk to the people that were like part of shaping my childhood that I either watched, listened to, watched on YouTube is really cool. So yeah, that's being exciting, such a big Disney Channel fan, and like I mentioned in the intro, I'm a massive Christmas fan. So the ultimate Christmas present came out, and you played Santa Claus, and that's one of my favorite Christmas movies. I still watch it every year. What was the audition process like? And this was the first time, correct me if I'm wrong, that you played Santa, right?
Yeah, well, it was interesting because there's so much you don't hear as an actor, right? So I do know a little bit of behind the scenes story because I did audition for it, and then so these days you audition for stuff that's shooting next week, right? You know what I mean?
Okay.
Back then there was often a little bit of time between, and I've always played older. Even when I was in my 20s, I was playing 40s and 50s because I'm heavy set.
Did you look older when you were younger?
Yeah. I'm heavy. Also, I'm heavy set and I'm thick through here, and I've always had a beard. I grew a beard in high school, so I've always, the shape of my face and that kind of stuff. So I think the first time I played my own age, I was 36. Right?
Wow.
Before then, I was playing 50-year-olds in my 20s.
Jeez.
But that was made in 1999. So I was 39 that year. I just gave away my age.
Okay, but it sounds mean. I'll be honest. You did look older. I
mean,
the kids, your hair and makeup and everything. You're saying,
but I was playing 50s and other things. You know what I mean?
Right.
I was playing parents of adult kids, right?
Yeah.
The thing I know about that, and I don't know names and I don't know the details, is that they were negotiating with a fairly well-known American actor to play the Santa role that I did. Oh. And I don't know what happened. Either the schedule didn't work out or they couldn't afford him. I'm not sure.
Right.
No name, but things. So they called me kind of, closer to the date than they normally would have. And then they brought me in to read and to do audition again. It was just me. There was nobody else in the waiting room. It was just me. and I wore the same red shirt. And the room was usually go in for a callback. There'll be a director and a couple of producers, maybe, maybe a writer or something like that. But the room was packed with a lot of people. And I think what had happened was they went, okay, what are we going to do? And they looked back in my audition, and I do the work, and it was probably a pretty good audition. And I imagine, he's too young was the conversation.
Right.
But anyway, so they booked it. They gave it to me, and
Nice.
I think there was a lot of back and forth before we shot about. I was a bit slimmer back then, but I'm still husky. I was still husky. I still had a belly. But do we put him in a fat suit? Don't we? Do we shave a beard? Put him in a fake beard? Do we? It was a lot of back and forth. So I think there was quite a few producers that were, and the director were happy to have me. And then I think there was some doubt as well, or I don't know, but I really got a sense before we started shooting that a lot. I've never had so many phone calls about my beard.
I'm assuming it wasn't actually gray then, was it?
It was. I was so 30. I was already starting to go white.
Okay.
I think I probably had patches of dark here. This was probably dark.
Right. So they just added to the
white. Yeah. So they matched the color and basically painted my beard, really.
Yeah.
And then I grew it longer, and backcombed it to give it that sort of thing. But I had hair at the time.
Right.
But not a lot of it. So that was
they made like curly, not curly, but like there were curls in it or something. Something like that ish.
So they made a $2,000 wig for me out of yak hair, but I think the conversation design wise was let's go with the fact that you're a bit young. Let's make him a little more modern. So it was kind of a shortish wig, like it wasn't really long. It was a full head of hair, but it probably ended there. You know what I mean? It wasn't big, long hair, and I guess somebody didn't like it after the day. So after it came and they sent the shots to the thing, that some note came back. So the poor hair and makeup people were putting extensions in it from old. This was like $2,000 yak heads, handmade, match my head wig, and then they were putting extensions in it with by cutting pieces off of department store Santa beards, right?
Jeez.
So there's one scene in it where it's so clear, and then they managed to blend it quite well.
Oh, really? Maybe I'm oblivious to when I watch it because
you're a kid, right?
But I still watch it every year. Now I'm gonna hey, this Christmas coming up, I'm gonna look for that to see where I can spot.
Yeah, there's maybe one scene where I know I can see it, but it's whatever.
Yeah. So looking at that cast, for the early 2000s, it's a pretty good one. You look at Spencer Breslin, who carved out a pretty good career in the early to mid 2000s.
Yeah,
he was in a lot of stuff.
Yeah, he had just done something with Bruce Willis, I think, or he was.
Oh no, not. It was something to do with baseball.
I want to say The Kid.
Yes, but I don't think it was Bruce Willis. I think it was. Oh my gosh, I don't know why I'm blanking. Was it Dennis Quaid?
I won't argue with you. I
can't remember, but yes, it was
time.
called something like that. Yeah, it had to do with baseball. And then after that, he was in the Santa Claus movies with Tim Allen.
That was after that, yeah.
Yeah, then after that, he did Zoom, which was a superhero movie with Tim Allen. He had a good early to mid 2000s. He just kind of vanished in a way. Then you look at Hallie Todd. She most notably for me, she was in the Lizzie McGuire. Right. Brenda Song, Sweet Life, Zack and Cody. She was in a ton of Disney Channel original movies as well. So there were some good actors in this. Now, one of my favorite ones though is Bill Fagerbach.
Yeah.
Patrick Star, SpongeBob.
So I think that was pre SpongeBob.
It would have been, I think SpongeBob was 99, so it would have been very close.
Or he had just started doing. I didn't know anything about SpongeBob, but I was Star Trek because we used to watch a show called Coach, and he played. He was a regular in that. And he was one of my favorite characters. He played this big dumb football player, which is basically Patrick.
Right. Yeah. Well. Yeah. And is he actually is Bill massive in real life?
He's really tall. He's 6'5" or something like that. But he's smart. He's you can't play. If you kind of watch characters who are historically playing dumb characters all the time, they tend to be pretty bright.
Right.
Actually, so he was a smart guy. And he had a bit of that voice, but he wasn't that.
Yeah. Oh no, SpongeBob is my favorite cartoon of all time.
Yeah. Oh,
that's the actor from Modern Family that played Luke Dunphy. He in real life, he's a genius.
That's the kid, right?
The son. But then, like in the show, like he's just like a little idiot. So it's you're right about people that play kind of dummies, but are like actually really smart.
Goldie Hawn is the one that you wouldn't remember. Maybe,
I know who that is.
You know who she is, but she did Laugh In, and she played this really dumb girl in a bikini, and you just thought, what a ditz, right? And then you kind of went, oh no, you know,
she knows what she's doing.
Play. Yeah,
exactly. I don't know if the last time you've ever seen the movie, like, have you actually watched The Ultimate Christmas Present?
Well, like you, my kids were the same age. You know, my youngest is the same age as you, right? So it became part of their Christmas, and my sister has kids around the same age too, right? So it became kind of part of our family Christmas.
Right.
Was they would watch it quite regularly. So I did see it every year, but I confess I'd probably do a crossword during it.
Hey, that's okay. You're too busy filming it. So there's actually, I have a fun fact of that movie actually. Now it being on Disney Plus. So there's a scene, I don't know if you remember, when you guys are trying to find who stole the weather machine.
Right.
Secret Agent Man plays.
Yes. Yeah.
So now it's on Disney Plus. It had to get removed for copyright. So it's just an instrumental now. But if your subtitles are on, the lyrics are still there.
Is that right?
Yes.
Oh, that's an interesting. Hey, I'm curious. There was a thing because we got a copy of it on DVD. Because I think the version we watched when I was a kid was probably a recorded VHS copy.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, we got a DVD.
Any other version, it would be that song.
Yeah. So I wouldn't notice that.
Well, it was like the Mandela effect for me because I remember I watched it a couple years ago on Disney Plus, and I was like, I thought this was a different song before. And then on IMDb, on like the trivia, it said that. I was like, I fucking knew it.
Yeah.
So but if you have the subtitles on, the lyrics are still there for Secret Agent Man.
I wonder whether I would have noticed that.
Yeah.
I wonder if I would have noticed that. I probably would. I'd probably go, something's weird here. But
while you're doing your crossword, you'd be listening for the song.
That's odd. What's
that? Exactly.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing about that movie is that like it would have been like only a couple years later where like Disney Channel original movies blew up. Like I think it was right at that time, and then like however many after, like you have like Double Teamed, the motocross one, like the early or late 90s, early 2000s, and then I think Disney Channel movies blew up with like High School Musical, the Hannah Montana movie. So like you're in a cool spot of like it wasn't massive like it is now.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about those two is that, my thing about Canadian actor wasn't self-deprecating. I'm proudly a Canadian actor,
right?
But the reality of my life, as a supporting actor, is that, and that's why it's strange for me to talk to you about this stuff about my career, because to me, most of the stuff I do goes under the radar. I get my paycheck, and I get a little bit of residuals, but not that much. But it's a nice little, it pays a couple of hydro bills. Here. There's no sense of other than a conversation with somebody that age who remembers the movie, usually an actor I'm working with. It didn't come with any kind of fame or prestige or anything like that. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Sure. And I'm not. That's not a complaint. If anything, it's a relief. I don't think I'd be comfortable with it.
Right.
But so other than these conversations about nostalgia, that's kind of and to me that's a wonderful thing. And
right.
And the fact that it was such a big part of my own kids' childhood is kind of cool.
That is really cool. Yeah, that worked out kind of nicely. That like you're Santa Claus to them.
Yeah.
That's cool.
My I think or the kids that were younger than them, and so yeah. I think that's the thing about I think the thing about what I love about what I do is that I've done a ton of theater. Probably I've done as many plays as I've done, TV and films, but I have no photographs from them. I have no record of them.
Really?
Other than, and most of the memories, if I'm honest, are not about the show, but they're about the people or the city I was in or the people I met or the friends I made, you know, and there's very, very few memories about being on stage or, you know, if I have a memory, it's probably about rehearsal, making a discovery,
sense,
you know, and it's all wonderful stuff. Don't get me wrong. But with film television, it's interesting because here's a thing I did for a few weeks in the summer of 1999, and here we are 20 odd years later, and you know, I've just met you, a complete stranger on the other side of the country, and we're talking about something that you know, we have shared experience about. And
that is really cool. I that's a good way to put it too.
Yeah, I think that's special to me. That means, you know, that's why I'm, you know, talking to you right now.
Oh yeah, and I appreciate it immensely. So growing up for me, I've always been a massive hockey fan, and looking at your IMDb, you've done a few hockey projects. So are you a hockey fan? Were you ever a hockey fan?
I'm Canadian, so you know, my parents were British, so I didn't grow up in a big hockey house, right?
Okay.
But, you know, I can fake my way through a hockey country.
Okay, so you were in Slapshot 2. Had you seen the original at
the time? Of course. Okay. Yeah, that's
I just want to make sure.
The original is the best hockey movie ever made.
Yeah, I would put
that an MVP. Maybe.
Oh yeah, there we go. I was gonna say Miracle, but yeah, MVP too.
Yeah.
So this one was interesting. I haven't seen it, but this one starred Stephen Baldwin and Gary Busey. Did you get to meet the Hanson brothers, by the way?
Yeah, I met them. Yeah, because I was shooting in the arena during a lot of their stuff. Yeah. I mean, I got to meet them. Yeah. So
yeah. They seem like interesting cats.
Yeah, they were just nice guys. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing when you're meeting people. You know, they're not in character, right? So,
that's true. That's a good point. Everyone knows them. I mean, they think they're the Hanson brothers. Now they say that the one's not even related.
Yeah, and yeah, there's only two. There's two of them are brothers, and the other one's not, right?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, and they're there to do work, and so are you, and we, you know, and everybody in the movie loved the old movie, right? So we were very aware of the fact that Paul Newman wasn't in it. No, not taking anything away from Stephen Baldwin.
No,
right? You know what I mean? So you're very aware of what's the same and what's different.
Right, exactly. Growing up when I was a kid, me and my dad are Leafs fans. Every Saturday night, every time Coach's Corner came on, he would make he would actually tell me, like, I couldn't talk for like the 4 minutes or however long it was. I couldn't say a word the whole time. So when I grew a little older and I was a Don Cherry fan. He had his show, his miniseries, Keep Your Head Up, Kid, the Don Cherry story, and you were in an episode. You were.
I was the doctor that told him his kid was dying. Yes.
So that would have been probably pretty cool at the time because Jared Keeso, he's a phenomenal actor. That guy is so creative with Letterkenny and Shoresy and all this stuff.
Yeah. He's doing very well. Yeah.
Do you have any like memories of filming that? I know.
So here's the thing. I'll kind of give you a blanket answer to all these things. Yes, but I was only there for a day or a couple of days. You know what I mean? Sure. Like, so you're part of these things, but in some cases, you're literally there for half a day.
True.
You know, so you go and do the audition, you do all that work on your own, you do all the prep on your own. It's not like a theater gig where you're working with these people for three weeks. And because I'm a character actor, so, you know, I've done, you know, I've done more than is on IMDb, and I think there's 100 and some on IMDb.
Yeah.
But some of those were several weeks. Most of those were a day, 2 days, 3 days. So like you, I'm meeting these people, but the job is to go in and, you know, support their work, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Does it make sense? Right. Yeah. So you get a chance to have a conversation, and I you know, you're certainly sitting around for the day, but it's really just the day that you're there.
Right.
So, you know, you don't necessarily form but you get great impressions. So for me, it is nice to be able to, you know, meet Don Cherry and shake his hand for 5 minutes.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and it literally is just 5 minutes. Yeah. Jared, what's his name? Just Keeso. Really nice guy. But he was a young actor focusing on his work. And I think the scenes I did, I was a doctor for I was maybe there for 2 days.
Okay.
But if it was one location, it could have been just one day. Right.
Fair.
You know what I mean? So you're you know, you make I think I've been doing this long enough to be able to figure people out pretty quickly.
Right.
And both he and the woman who was playing his wife were very clearly skilled and prepared professional actors. and I think that's been proven since
Yeah.
because of the work he's done.
Well, exactly. The last hockey thing, obviously, you were an NHL lawyer in the Gordie Howe story, which was pretty cool.
That was that was one scene, one morning.
Right. There you go. Yeah. So that's awesome though. That like a lot of cool Canadian projects you've been a part of. Now I mentioned this off the top about Christmas and everything. You have been in so many Christmas movies the last 10 years. What is going on? Are you that big a fan of Christmas?
All right. So Winnipeg. So this is my Winnipeg pitch. So Winnipeg is one of those places because because it's not on the way to a lot of places, people can kind of skip over it, right? Mm-hmm. What you don't know about Winnipeg, because you grew up in Ontario, and in Ontario we don't talk about the rest of the country. Right. I had to move out to the rest of the country to realize there's some really exciting things going on outside of Toronto. Yeah. And you live outside of Toronto, so you get a little piece of that. But Winnipeg, up until the 1930s, up until the Panama Canal, Winnipeg was Toronto. It is the cultural center of Canada. Right. It's the place where the first ballet was, the first orchestra was, the first theater was here. All the arts in Canada started in Winnipeg, not in Toronto, not in Montreal, not in Vancouver, in Winnipeg. Okay. Even like when they had vaudeville circuits, the head offices were in Winnipeg. Yeah, it was when they opened the Panama Canal in the 1930s that kind of wrecked it, right? Okay. And then they started using planes, but because everything had to come through here, so it was financial capital. So anyway, so Winnipeg has this great history of the performing arts. So this town is filled with musicians and actors and everything, but no one's on the way to Toronto or on the way to New York. They're here making a commitment to this community. Right. Edmonton is very similar, and I think I talked about in the 80s. It was a really rich theater community. No one goes to Edmonton or Winnipeg on their way to New York or LA. Right. The people that are here, and it's true of a lot of other smaller cities. I'm guessing Halifax is the same way. Yeah. People are investing in their town, so there's generations of creative individuals. And so what's happened to Manitoba has also one of the best film credits in the country, in the continent, really. Okay. So what that means is that when a production company comes to town, they get, whatever they spend on hiring locals and using local, they get that money back as an investment. That happened. That's why they don't shoot much in LA anymore. They go to Atlanta. They shoot in Hamilton. They shoot in Ottawa. They shoot in Sudbury because they get better credits outside of the Greater Toronto area. Right. The lower budget stuff. So, and then what happens? We also have these really great crews here, and so they'll come out here once to save money. And then they'll go, oh, we saved money, and there's actually some good people out there. So the next time they come out, they don't bring as many people with them because they know they can get them here. So it's been I wouldn't call it a boom. People here call it a boom, but it's been a slow growth in production here every year. And so a lot of that production has been lower budget stuff because they're here for the break, right? Right. But a lot of them have been Hallmark movies, Lifetime movies, Christmas movies, and a lot of horror movies as well. Interesting. Shot here. What's shot here that you might know? Nobody was shot here. With guy from Breaking Bad.
Bob Odenkirk.
Bob Odenkirk. Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. What else was shot here that you wouldn't know? But anyway, so stuff is being shot here. It's actually got. That's kind of one of the reasons I'm still here, that I didn't make the Vancouver. But anyway, so what we were talking about. So like all the Lifetime and Hallmark movies. Yeah, Hallmark movies. So I'm able to work. I probably do about two or three of those a year. Wow. Because the thing, I don't always play Santa. I've actually only played Santa. I've actually only played Santa Claus 3 times. Okay. Right. So well, maybe 4 because I played him on a TV series I did, but in a fantasy sequence. But I played Santa Claus in the movie you and I were talking about, and then I played Santa Claus in a Hallmark movie called.
I don't blame you for not knowing. You know,
Just Before Christmas, I think it was. Okay. And then I played a guy named. I played a character that may or may not have been Santa. Oh, it was in another one. And then I've played characters called Nick and Chris. Oh, really? And you know what I mean? And I played guys who dress up like Santa. Okay. Right? And Silent Night was a horror movie. It was all Santas. I played the dad, but I was a cop in a Santa competition.
Oh, you were Violent Night with David
Violent
Harbour.
Night. There's a pub scene at the very beginning of that.
At the very beginning, yes. I watched that, I think it would have been last year or the year before when it came out, and I was watching it, and right when it started, I said, that's a Santa Claus from Ultimate Christmas Resolution.
Yeah.
I knew right away.
Oh, that's great. That was fun. That was fun. Now, again, that was a morning, right? You know,
right.
That was a morning. Right? Yeah,
and he seems like a great actor too, David Harbour.
Yeah, he seemed like a nice guy. It was a weird morning just for him because he was trying to figure it out, right? You know, so it was the very first day.
Oh,
wow. It was the very first day, and so he was trying to figure out the character.
Oh, interesting. So, that's even more interesting. Usually that's not how it works. It's not usually the first scene was the first scene you shot, right?
No, that's unusual. But I think it was a nice scene. It was a nice scene to start with because it was about the character. And there's a lot of, that's the thing too, is you don't get to see, and it's not, there was a lot more to that scene. There was a whole thing with him and his wife that I think was cut from the whole story.
Oh,
so I had some really, I was able to improvise a little bit. And that was
right.
I always love that. And that's what I like about the Hallmark. Some of the directors that I know, they trust me enough to let me play, right? So
yeah.
So I like to improvise and play around as well. You know the script. Like I'm word perfect, but then then there's some new words.
Exactly. I don't expect you to have sit there and watch every single Hallmark and Lifetime movie you're in, but are you ever flipping the channel at Christmas time and it goes, oh, there's one I was in. There's another one. Ever leave it on? Well,
okay. Here's the weird thing. I don't watch TV.
What?
No, I don't. We don't have cable.
Okay.
We haven't had cable. Even when you're talking about my kids, right? We had. I don't think we had cable even when I shot The Ultimate Christmas.
Wow.
We watch movies on DVD and video, right? And now it's streaming. Now it's all streaming.
Well, yeah, it's a lot easier
Netflix,
now.
Amazon Prime, and that kind of stuff. And my daughter has Disney Plus, so I know her password, so everyone's always
the best.
But, yeah. So I don't come across them. So I haven't seen most of them. To be honest,
that's fair.
Yeah,
that's fair. Okay, I got 2 more things before I let you go. Sorry, 3. One, who's Joseph Common?
Joseph Common is a fellow I know who thinks he's a more talented performer than he is.
Okay.
And he's a little hostile towards me. I don't know why he dislikes me so much, but I try to support him as much as I can. And he does a little comedy cabaret. And he wants to turn it into a TV show.
Mm-hmm.
But most of the performers in the show are relatives of his ex-wife, who's much more talented than he is, Connie Common, who you may have heard of, and his nephew, little Joe Common, and his nieces are performers as well. But yeah, they do. It does a cabaret every once in a while, usually a holiday-based cabaret where he invites comedians and dancers and singers and band to come out and play. And the show has a tendency, because it's produced very cheaply and at the last minute, it has a tendency to be frayed around the edges and falls apart as often as it comes together. But
I love that.
It's kind of like the Muppet Show on acid is kind of.
Oh, there we go. Even better. I love that.
I like to describe it. Yeah.
Amazing.
Broccolo
Creative. Broccolo Creative. Let's dive into that. What is that all about?
Well, it's the company that I use. It's the company name that I use for all my personal creative stuff. So there's a sign right behind me.
There it is.
It's my production company, but I also run classes and stuff like that. So any of my professional work, it's my professional company. Broccolo is apparently the singular of broccoli, I'm told.
Where did you come up with the name though? Not from that, I would assume.
It's one of those. I'll tell you the story. It's not that exciting, but the very first the very first short film I ever made. I make these short films. Some of them are inaccessible, but a lot of them are in there. My last name's Lowe. I call them solo projects. I tend to make them on my own. But Broccolo was one of the very first videos I ever shot. It was a tongue-in-cheek art video, and it was originally called Broccoli and Brussels Sprouts. But I decided to cut the budget, so it was just called Broccoli, and it's an 8-minute sort of tribute to broccoli, and it's. The framework is an artist that I play who's painting a giant painting of broccoli, And then it just cuts to people eating broccoli, people cooking broccoli, people talking about broccoli.
Is that your favorite vegetable?
Yes, absolutely. You could live off of broccoli.
Really?
It has almost as much protein as beef does.
Really?
You could live off of broccoli.
Well, I eat broccoli twice a day for lunch, in my lunch and my dinner. So
I tell you, man, blueberries in the morning, broccoli for.
I have blueberries in the morning.
There you go. That'll keep you alive, man. I'll tell you.
So
broccoli's great, and you can have it roasted broccoli on the barbecue.
So good.
Oil, so good. Yeah, and you don't need the cheese and crap, but it's wonderful with cheese as well. Yeah,
cheese with
it. So broccoli is the name of the thing. So we needed a production company name. My last name is Lowe, so the production company name for that video was Broccolo Productions with an Lowe, and then that just got shorted to Broccolo Creative, and then I registered it, and that's the name I've been using for 20 odd years now. So,
oh wow,
yeah. So
that's awesome. Do you have anything like coming up you want to plug?
No.
Okay. Hey, I just thought I'd give you the floor. Now, the last thing. So, like I said, that no one misses being a kid more than I do. So, one thing I like to end the interview with is, what's one thing you miss the most about your childhood?
Wow. That's a great question. I wish you'd give me time to think about it. What do I miss about my I think it's about time. It's about the fact that now, between the computer and the phone and the work I'm doing, because I work online all the time, I teach, I'm always doing projects and stuff like that. What I find really hard to do is to just sit still and think or read or just hang out, and I think that I see kids now and they don't have the opportunity to just go look at frogs in a pond. Right. Do you know what I mean? I think and I miss that. Even as an older man who has some control over my schedule, I find it really hard to just sit still and look at shit. I used to do this thing. I'll give you a little thing to, you want to end on this, but I used to, because I lived in the interior of BC, and I'll look at the camera. So because I lived in, I'm looking at you the whole time.
That's okay.
Because I live in the interior of BC and I worked in Vancouver, I used to drive over 2 mountain ranges. So 5.5 hour drive from my house to. I was in the Okanagan, West Vancouver, West Kelowna. So I used to drive over 2 mountain ranges. I love driving. I love the mountains. I told you I lived in a van for a year. I love traveling. I love driving. So it wasn't a problem. But when you're on your way to an audition or you're on your way to something, you become aware of time. You become aware of whatever. So I was really good at scheduling these drives. I learned how to, depending on where I was going, kind of thing. But I did find that occasionally I would find myself tense behind the wheel. And I hated that, especially in the wintertime when you're driving over the Coquihalla during the snowstorm, thing.
I mean, fair, you're white knuckling it. Yeah, fair.
Yeah, you're white knuckling it. And there was no need to. I had a good vehicle. I was a good driver. I knew how to drive the mountains and that kind of stuff. But whenever I found myself getting tense, I knew I'd pay for it the other end. I'd either have a sore back or a headache or just I'd be, whatever. So I scheduled my day accordingly. I would pull over to the side of the road in the wintertime and the summertime, and I'd go look at a tree. And this sounds so airy-fairy. Or I'd go look at a scenery. But I would say, I always say look at a tree. Sometimes it would be something else. But what it was because I love the mountains, because I love traveling, I would, and also so many people around the world save up money to come to Canada to see those mountains that I got to drive through. I lived in them, I got to drive through them every day. And I thought the minute I was cursing them, it was wrong. So I would stop until I saw the tree. So it might be me looking at the tree and just going whatever, or I'd have to count the branches. I'd have to whatever, but I would just try to take what was in my head and my body and just focus on the place I was at. I guess it's about being in the moment. I guess it's about being
appreciating life
or whatever, appreciating whatever. But yeah. So just going to look at a tree. And I think that's kind of part of why I answered that question about childhood. Because I think when you were a kid, you could go get, you could go down to the creek and, you're hunting for tadpoles, but when you catch them, you're not going to do anything with them.
No.
You're just trying to find them,
Time wasn't a thing. You're right. Like I'd go ride bikes with my buddies. We'd leave at 7 in the morning, come back at 7 at night.
Yeah. I ride my bike. I ride my bike all the time. I always ride to set when I can or whatever. But it's one of my favorite things to do because I ride a lot now. And when I'm not when I need time to think, I'll get on my bike and just go for. I've got a couple of routes, just nice bike trails around.
Nice.
And I just go and I go. I have there's a wildlife park near me where they have a bison reserve.
Oh,
and there's a little hill, and it's exactly 10.1 kilometers from my door.
Oh, wow.
So every once in a while, I'll just say to my wife, I'm gonna go look at the bison.
That's cool.
Right? And I'll just go ride there, and I have an apple, and I sit on the bench and I look at the bison. Right.
That's a timeless thing. Riding bikes is such a timeless thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's awesome. Oh, that's awesome. Well, John, thank you so much for coming on here.
Nice.
I really, really appreciate it. It's been so much fun talking with you, being able to talk to my Santa Claus.
Ho, ho, ho.
Awesome. Exactly. So, yeah, thank you again, John. I really do appreciate it.
Well, thanks for your interest, Quinn, and nice to meet you. And hopefully, we'll see you in something or something.
Well, hey, you know what? I'll take it. I don't know what that is, but I'll take it.
Yeah. Maybe I'll introduce you to Joseph Common one day.
There we go. Even better. Awesome. All right, John. I will talk to you later.
All right. Cheers. Nice meeting you. Cheers.
And that was the Quinn Marr Show.